tout le monde. My name is Caroline Robertson. I am a first year here at Telfer. However, I did just complete a year and a half of business studies in New Zealand and have recently returned. This being said, I'm also the first year representative of the Telfer Student Council, in addition to being the VP of Outreach for the Right to Play charity organization here at the university. Now, for the Student Council, as was said, I'm running for the position of VP External, which truly is quite similar to the position of VP Outreach that I already hold for the charity. As VP External, there are two main jobs that they must accomplish throughout the year. Firstly, it's securing the sponsorship, which can be quite challenging due to the fact that we don't have a huge quantity of specific events. So we really want to make sure that our sponsors and our potential sponsors see the purpose of funding us. The second goal and duty of the VP External is to represent the Telfer student body at external conferences. Now, the two main bodies of conferences are RAFEC and CABS, one of which is the French body of conferences and universities on Eastern Canada, and the other one is the Association of Business Schools across Canada. Being bilingual, I think it will really help me in this position. Not only will I be able to reach sponsors that are both English first language and French first language, but I'll also be able to accurately represent the Telfer student body at the RAFEC French campuses and conferences. Now, this being said, I'll move on to what my primary mission and goals, therefore my platform, is for this coming year. The main thing that I want to accomplish in my term as VP External, should I be elected, is to accurately represent the Telfer student body. And by this, I mean that I want to make sure when I am representing you at these external conferences that I mentioned, that I have an accurate idea of the concerns that you want brought forward. And I think that the best way to do this is through general surveys, and these surveys would be most efficient if they were done online. And as Susan mentioned in her platform, I do believe the best way to do this is through our monthly newsletter. So you can use platforms such as SurveyMonkey, any really free online survey platforms, and that way I can really get a broad view of what you guys want brought forward at these conferences. Because at the end of the day, my goal is both to secure funding and to represent you guys, because as VP External, I want to make sure that I'm providing you with the resources to have the most enjoyable, but also the most beneficial experience here at the university. That's it for me today.
All right, open the floor to questions. Quiet group.
No questions? All right, if there's no questions, then we're going to move on to the next candidate. Do you have a question?
Yeah, sure, really quickly. So how would you promote or how would you position Telfer if you're approaching a sponsor? Like, what would you tell them?
Well, I think, as I mentioned before, it is hard with sponsors because we're the overreaching body for all the other clubs. So it's not like if I was HRA and could say, look, this is a list of our specific events we want funding for. So I think the most important thing is just showing our sponsors and making them understand our role, because if they do see that our job is essentially to help and assist and provide for all the other clubs, they'd see the importance behind their funding. So I think that as representing Telfer, the most important thing to do is just thoroughly explain the role of the Telfer Student Council and to reach as many sponsors as possible and help them to see our purpose.
Any other questions? Tanner?
So this is just a throw out, but would one of your possible solutions to like reaching out into funding to funders and sponsors, could you see yourself possibly centralizing sponsorship dealings as to have them sponsor Telfer Student Council as a whole and choose where they want to send their money through the clubs, rather than each club having to individually reach out to each organization and having the organization might see it as like a really disconnected and siloed.
Yes, no, I understand where you're coming from, because it is hard for them to see the invisible links between the clubs. However, as Steph already mentioned, she is working very hard in our policies and our bylaws to make sure that there's a high level of cohesiveness between us. And as to like more central funding, that's something that would have to be further discussed with the VP Finance and organized. But I think that through the changes that Steph plans to bring, should she be elected, that the sponsors will have an easier way of seeing what their money is being put towards.
Cool. Thank you.
Mo?
Essentially, based off his question too, are you planning, what extent are you planning to link sponsors with each one of the clubs here, not only the Telfer Student Council?
Well, if the other clubs should need assistance finding sponsorship, obviously I can help. We do work together as a team with all the other clubs, so we do share contacts and all that. Obviously my role is to find sponsorship directly for the Telfer Student Council and our 3 primary events, which are 101 Week, the grad ball, and the clubs gala. However, I am here to assist the other clubs too, because we are the governing body. So any help that the other clubs would need finding sponsorship, I could assist in that. But the direct sponsorship that I'd be looking for would be for our 3 events and our various functions throughout the year.
And would you take charge, and how far are you willing to help clubs? Is it just by sharing contacts or by actually talking to the sponsors as well?
Oh, I could easily talk to the sponsors, especially if I've already fostered the relationship. I'm more than happy to facilitate that with other clubs, because at the end of the day, the job of the Telfer Student Council is to help the other bodies here, and I want to make sure that, well, a primary way we can help them is to ensure that they have the funding. So obviously I'd feel free to share those sponsors, but I'd also definitely be comfortable reaching out for the other clubs on their behalf.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay, we're gonna move on. Thank